Alright, what up, y'all? So, Cataclysm is coming. We are, I think, a little bit less than a month away from release. We got a bunch of spoilers. So, number one, I'm going to go through some of the new cards, just stuff that stands out to me. And at the end of this video, I'll have a little deck list for you guys. Dragon Warrior with some of these new cards. Looking like it's going to be pretty sweet, but let's get into some of these cards here. Cataclysm looks really sweet so far. This is all available on the Blizzard website. So far, it looks like there's a really good combination of, like, they're doing a good job of teasing us with cards that are, a combination of good and kind of niche or, interesting, but not sure if they'll be good. Like, for example, stuff like this guy is always funny. Like a 2-mana 5/3 is like, oh, you have my attention, but Battlecry is freeze it. So who knows? Stuff like that could have potential. Just depends on how the metagame looks overall. But then there are some interesting things like Sheltered Survivor here. Choose a card in your hand to shuffle into your deck and then draw a card. So 2-mana 2/3 seems like it could be interesting at the very least. Kind of hard to say if stuff like that sees play. I think it depends on the core of certain decks and how that kind of fits into it. But still interesting nonetheless. What else? This guy actually, Gen, Cursed King was pretty interesting because if your whole hand is odd or even specifically, then when you play him, he becomes bigger and he upgrades your hero power and makes it cost 1. So very interesting. I'm not sure if this is something that's reasonable to trigger in standard, but there are usually a surprising amount of legendary minions that are better than expected. They look cool on paper, but once you play them, you're like, oh, this is real. So this could be one of those cards, but really hard to tell. I'm not sure if that's going to be reasonable to trigger his ability. One of the things I'm most excited about is Carrier Whelp, because it's just we need a 1-mana dragon for the dragon deck since we're losing Gift Wrapped Whelp in the standard rotation, and this one giving you another dragon that costs 3 or less helps your curve. It's a 1-mana 1/2, which is reasonable, not obviously the best for aggro, but it's replacing itself with this, which is huge. And giving you a dragon also helps you trigger the effects like Prescient Slither Drake or Broodmaster, stuff like that that needs a dragon in your hand. Warlock is pretty interesting. Your next Murloc costs 3 or less, or that costs 3 or less, costs health instead of mana. Could give Murlocs a little bit of a boost so that they can be aggressive and fast again. Because that's, I think, what Murlocs needs right now is a lot more speed to be able to keep up with the metagame. Because otherwise, Murlocs just don't do it. Another one I'm super stoked about is Earthen Drake here. 5-mana 4/4 elemental dragon, but at the end of your turn you deal 4 damage to the enemy hero. So I think that could be something that creates a clock. Dragons doesn't really have very many good 5-drops, like Tormented Dreadwing is kind of hit or miss. Every once in a while you'll throw a 1-of in your deck, like if you're playing Elise and you need a 5 slot. But this guy could advance not only your board state, but also advance the aggression on your opponent with the 4 damage a turn clock. The other guy that's really sweet is this one. If you're holding a dragon, you refresh 2 mana crystals, and it's already a 3-mana 4/5. So this immediately makes me think turn 3, this guy, and then refresh 2 mana crystals, play a Petal Peddler. Something like that could be pretty bonkers, especially if you've already played a 1-drop and a 2-drop on your first couple of turns. Could really be interesting. So I like this guy a lot. Otherwise, there's not too much in the neutral cards that really gets me interested. Like a 7-mana dragon is interesting, but summoning 2 random 4-cost minions, not really the greatest. This guy is interesting, I guess. 2-mana 2/2 that discovers a spell from your class or whatever class it swaps to every turn. Could be something, it's a little bit of value. In a deck like Dragons, something that replaces itself with another card is usually pretty valuable since you want to be, playing 1 or 2 cards a turn. And really keeping pressure on the board. Demon Hunter has some cool cards. I do like this Herald mechanic, so there's the Colossus guys, and the Herald mechanic basically takes one of the appendages and puts it in play as a soldier. So there's lots of different things, like for this guy, it's very interesting. The Colossus gives your hero Wind Fury, and it's Colossal +2, so you have 2 appendages. It's an 8-mana 8/8, which is, decent size, but each of those appendages gives your hero +1 attack. Just when it's summoned, but If you herald them, then it upgrades them, or herald them twice, you upgrade them. So it's kind of got this extra little effect that'll be pretty interesting. So I'm excited to see how the herald mechanic works out in standard. I'm sure when excuse me, I'm sure when the set comes out, there's going to be people playing like Herald specific decks where they're just trying to use the Colossus and the Herald ability to try and do something, fun and interesting. But I'm not sure how good that stuff's actually going to be. Deathwing Worldbreaker though is very interesting. You get to choose a Cataclysm to unleash, and I believe there we go. So the Cataclysms, you've got Topple, destroy the highest health enemy minion, deal 4 damage to all enemy minions. Shuffle 5 random legendary dragons into your deck, and they cost 1. Summon a 12/12 dragon, and then that's the 12/12 dragon you would get. And it turns your hero power into 2 mana plus 5 attack this turn. Seems pretty good. It also gives you 12 armor, and if you herald, then it's going to obviously get better as you do this. So very, very interesting. I don't know if 10 mana is a little too expensive, but it does look like actually this is a neutral card as opposed to just... oh no, just kidding. It is a Death Knight card. But yeah, super interesting. Like that a lot. What else? There's a couple like kind of cute things, like this guy, stealing 3 health from an enemy minion 3 times. It's like, okay, sure. But nothing too crazy. Death Knight has some cool stuff. Again, the Herald abilities. This one's a 3/6 for 9 mana. Not great, but when your hero loses health on your turn, you gain that much max health instead. And the wings will, when they're summoned, get a random 2-cost minion, and it costs health instead of mana. So if you play it, then you're spending the health, you're gaining max health instead of losing the health, and you get both of them when you actually play this. So kind of interesting. Seems a little too cute to actually be good, but hard to say with any of these things just yet. I always love a good board wipes for 4 damage to all enemy minions. Little high cost for 6, but you're getting to herald one of Onyxia's appendages, which is interesting. So there's something there. Warlock, not really much yet. Rogue has some very interesting things. Garona's Last Stand I find pretty interesting because you destroy a legendary minion and it's tradable. So tradable I find to be a really interesting mechanic for Rogue because drawing cards in Rogue is fantastic. There's ways you can abuse that. But destroying a legendary minion is historically very relevant, especially for 2 mana. Destroying any minion for 2 mana is very relevant. So that could be a card that sees some play depending on what the rogue decks kind of form into. Otherwise, the Colossus is okay. So +2, when summoned, you get a random spell from another class, and it costs 1 less. And your spells from other classes cast twice. So this obviously very interesting with Rogue because a lot of times you're trying to get other things from other classes. I think normally with Imbue Rogue, you're getting minions instead of spells, so it doesn't exactly synergize with that part of it, but it could inspire some decks that are just getting things from other classes. What is it? Petty Theft, cards like that just give you stuff from other classes could be interesting to say the very least. Warrior, not too much yet. The Colossus, 8 mana, 8/8. I love a Ragnaros variation. I'm a big fan of Ragnaros in general. But end of your turn, you trigger your minions' Death Rattles, and these have Death Rattle deal 2 damage to a random enemy. So, and that will upgrade every time you herald. So, depending on how good the herald abilities are for Warrior, that could be pretty interesting. And yes, I am also dizzy because every time I go back, this thing just scrolls back down to where I was. So, I'm sorry. Talk to Blizzard. Shaman, not much left. 9 mana, draw 2 cards, but costs 1 less for each time a friendly character attacked this game. So that could be pretty good. If you're playing something much more aggressive, like I think I talked about this in a previous video, where I think Shaman is going to have to adapt in a much different way to the next standard rotation, because pretty much all of mid-range Shaman, majority of the cards, or at least the good cards, are rotating. And so Shaman doesn't have a ton, in my opinion, that allows you to play a similar strategy. So you're kind of in a place where it's got to adapt into either maybe an aggressive strategy like Elementals. It could adapt into a control shell, which I'm not sure if they have all the tools for. or it could go more combo oriented. This could be interesting with aggro or combo, depending on kind of how your deck is structured. But there's something there. It's at the very least it's cute. There's something. Mage, very interesting. Volcanos, the 7 mana 4/8 elemental. At the end of your turn, deal 2 damage to all other minions. Interesting ability. The appendages are whenever this takes damage, get a random fire spell. It costs 3 less. That's pretty relevant. And you'll notice this one doesn't say it upgrades. So I think that says something right there that this one is probably a higher power level than the other Colossus minions, because if it upgraded, I mean, costing 3 less is already pretty fantastic. And fire spells are historically going to deal damage or do something aggressive. But it is relevant that Volcanos will kill these little plumes within 2 turns, because he deals 2 damage to all other minions, not just your enemies. So if there's some way to take advantage of that, sure, but very interesting to say the least. I like the potential for something like that. If anything, just maybe a finisher for some type of aggressive, spell damage type deck, something like that could be interesting. This guy, Raincaller, I love stuff like this. The first time you deal damage with a spell each turn, gain +2 attack, and that will stack. It's going to stay there permanently. So first time you do that, it becomes a 2 mana 3/4, and then a 5/4, etc. So could be pretty relevant in some type of aggressive mage deck. I love decks where I'm a fan of like Mana Worm and stuff like that. So minions that are benefiting off of you damaging your opponent with spells, increasing your aggressive abilities are usually pretty powerful. At least can be. They have like explosive potential. And then there's stuff like Sleet Storm, 1 mana 2 damage, and then 1 damage to a random enemy minion. Not a great card, but it's definitely efficient in terms of damage. And then in that same vein, Spellweaver's Brilliance. It's 10 mana, but it summons a 6 mana or 6/6 dragon, and then costs 1 less for each damage you dealt with spells this turn. So you throw like a fireball at their face. This costs 4. You're spending 8 mana total, so it's still, I don't know if it's really going to be that good, but it looks interesting on paper, at least worth considering in that like aggressive, maybe spell-heavy type of deck that I was talking about. Could fit into something, or at least Sleet Storm or Raincaller could fit into the like Elemental Mage type of deck. It's, kind of hard to say. Hunter got some interesting things. So Power Creep is real. 1 mana 2/2 elusive. That's just a solid minion right there. Obviously needs to be in some type of aggressive shell, I would imagine. What else? So Abyssian is your dragons have rushed this game, and while in your hand, you play a dragon to become a 12/12 dragon. So if you play a dragon while this is in your hand, it just becomes a 12/12, and your dragons have rushed this game. Pretty good. Seems like it has potential. They're obviously pushing for dragons in this set, so I'm very interested to see how this all works. And yeah, the funny thing, Magma, it's a Colossus plus 99. So there's 99 appendages. And summon any leftover appendages when there is room. So that means that whenever one of these guys dies, you're going to get another appendage immediately summoned. So they're 1 mana 2/1s with the death rattle of give a random friendly minion +2 attack. So very Hunter-like, pumping your minions, an aggressive 1 mana 2/1 type of body on it. And summon any leftover appendages when there's room is the only other ability on it. So not really sure if it's good, but it's cute. It's interesting. Could be cool. It's very Hunter. Just play dudes and attack. Confront the Tol'vir is very interesting as well. But otherwise, okay, here we go. 3 mana 3/3 taunt, but if it's in your hand and you play a dragon, it becomes a 6/6. So again, they're pushing for dragons. This could be phenomenal. I mean, imagine where you're going turn 1, a 2/2 with elusive for 1 mana. Peddler exists for turn 2. There's, a variety of different dragons that you could play. And then this guy on turn 3 is a 6/6 dragon. It's pretty interesting. So And the other relevant thing is if this turns into a dragon in your hand, it'll trigger other dragons, like say Prescient Slitherdrake will be active if it's in your hand. So interesting stuff there. Confront the Tol'vir, like I mentioned a second ago, could be interesting, but I'm not sure how relevant. You replay each one cost card you've played this game, targeting enemies if possible. We're losing Mixologist to the standard rotation, so obviously that would have fit perfectly in a deck like that. But there's some potential there. Could be interesting at the very least. Priest, not a lot yet. The Colossus is a 7 mana 4/8. After you restore health to a character, attack a random enemy minion. So doesn't seem amazing. The appendages are at the end of your turn, you restore 3 health to a random damaged friendly character. So basically you restore that, and then this attacks something, but it's only a 4/8. You get 3 of those appendages, so I guess you get 3 attacks out of it technically on the first turn if they've got 3 minions or a minion that can take 3 attacks. But I'm not in love with it. Doesn't really seem that good. The coolest thing about it, in my opinion, is the name, the Black Blood. And then Druid, some interesting stuff. I think Felwood Trent is probably the most interesting thing in my opinion. 2 mana 2/2, and you gain a temporary mana crystal. But if you spend 4 mana while it's in your hand, then it becomes a permanent mana crystal. So giving Druid ways to ramp permanently is usually pretty powerful. Just depends on what they can do with it. Like doing things like this guy where it fills your hand with dragons, potentially making them cost 1. And then the Colossus is 6 mana 0/5. Not sure about that one. After one of Wickerfang's legs gains stats, this gains them too. So at the end of your turn, gain +1/+1 is what all the appendages do. So you're looking at +4/+4 for each of, or 1 for each of your legs, and then 4 for him. So becomes a 4/9, which still isn't super incredible for 6 mana, but you're also getting these guys, which will be 1/3s. So 4 1/3s is what, 4/12. I mean, I guess. So you're getting 8 attack and 21 health for 6 mana in total on that first turn. Seems okay, but it is spread out, so I don't know how reasonable that is for it to be actually like the bomb that you want it to be. And then finally, Paladin. Choose a minion in your hand, give it +2/+2. I love a good hand pup effect, so I'm a big fan of stuff like Grime Street or Hourglass Attendant, stuff like that. So it's silly, but it's fun. It's one of my little guilty pleasures. Flight Maneuvers is interesting though, because worth noting, we're losing Flash Sale in the standard rotation, so this kind of helps fill that gap, because Shatter will split this into 2 cards, so one of them will be 4 mana summon 2 4/2 drakes, which is decent, I guess. And then the other one will be 4 mana, give your minions +1/+1 and Divine Shield. So Flight Maneuvers alone could just fit right into that aggro paladin type of shell and fill the hole of Flash Sale. Maybe with, I mean, it doesn't give you a taunt minion that protects your guys, but it does give all of your guys Divine Shield. So, you're kind of giving some to get some almost. And the Colossus, Chromatus, it's an 8 mana 8/8, decent. Taunt, Lifesteal, Elusive, and Divine Shield. Holy keywords, Batman. And the Colossus is +4, so you get 4 guys that are 2 mana 2/3s, and the Death Rattle is you remove Taunt from Chromatus or whatever ability is on these Lifesteal, Elusive, Divine Shield. So this guy seems pretty powerful, but these guys taking something away kind of helps mitigate that power. So not really sure if this is going to be too amazing, but it is a dragon, which is very relevant. I've been wanting Paladin dragons to be a thing for a while, but they haven't quite had the tools, so potentially this could be something that does it. But interesting stuff so far from Cataclysm. I think we probably have, half the cards of this set, something like that so far, so lots to be spoiled. But let's get to the Dragon Warrior deck list that I was talking about at the beginning of the video. If you made it this far, big thank you. And I got to do the, smash the like button type of interlude. I hate doing it. It feels disingenuous. But if you like, comment, follow, blah, 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 makes a huge difference for the channel. So big thank you guys. Dragon Warrior is an interesting deck. I think it caters over very easily into the new format after we rotate. These are all cards that will still be standard legal once the rotation happens in about a month. And this is a big core of Dragon Warrior right now. Now, if you take away the gift wrapped whelp and you sub in the carrier whelp, this I think helps with your early game aggression. You've got this guy in the 3 spot. Now, I wasn't too sure if, Whelp of the Infinite's fantastic, especially in a world where things like Prescient Slither Drake exist. And it's a great way to get taunt minions out of the way so you can keep bashing face. So I'm not sure if this guy will make you have to maybe cut 1 or 2 Portal Vanguard, but I do like that Portal Vanguard gives you some gas after you've gone aggressive in the early turn. So you could swap some things around like that. But I really like Darkscale Broodmother because, like I said earlier, you go this guy into Petal Peddler, you can go this guy into Broodkeeper, you can drop a Dark Rider and something else, Stone Carver. There's a lot of options there. Playing this guy also worth noting that it probably just makes 2-drops a little bit better in this deck. So I was thinking maybe you play Shadowflame Suffusion, because then that just gives you more 2-drops you can throw out there and have a really aggressive start by turn 3. So if you go turn 1, a 1-drop, a 2-drop, and then this guy into another 2-drop, you've got a phenomenal start, and all you have to do is not mess that up, And then lastly, the Earthen Drake in the 5 spot. I think that's a good way to round out this deck list, because if you have these aggressive starts, and then you get into Stadium Announcer or something like that, Prescient Slither Drake on 4, followed up with this guy, then it's just giving them banger after banger after banger to have to respond to. And I think that Dragon Warrior does the best when it puts your opponent on their heels from the first couple of turns and just continues to push the aggression so that your opponent is continuing to have to react. As long as your opponent is being reactionary, they're going to have a hard time being proactive. And I've also seen with Dragon Warrior so many times that when you have to be reacting as Dragon Warrior, you don't really do as well. So you need to make sure you have that aggressive start and continue to drop the threat. So I think that this guy does a lot in regards to that. Honorable mention is the Shadowed Informant. I think this guy has potential, and again, it's a 2-drop, so it could be thrown out there on turn 3 after the Dark Scale. I think there's a lot of potential with cards that replace themselves. That's part of why I like Portal Vanguard. So maybe this guy makes the cut instead of Portal Vanguard. This filling out the other 3 spot could make for an interesting deck list. So I really like where Dragon Warrior is looking. I think it's going to be a very easy cater from old standard metagame to the next standard metagame. But there's going to be a lot of adapting. There's going to be so many new cards being played, and it's going to be a little wild probably for the first couple of weeks. Now, worth noting, last thing I'll say, it is worth noting that whenever a metagame changes, whether they change cards, whether they rotate formats, anything like that, new set is released, you always want to give it at least a week to really settle before you decide what deck you're going to be playing. Because I know a lot of times we're working with a specific amount of dust to be able to craft cards with. So if you're loving the way a deck looks in the first week of a new metagame, give it some time. If you're not sure, there could be a couple things you want to build. I always say just kind of let things settle, and then you'll see what's good in about a week. It reminds me of when the mini set came out where Imbue Rogue became a deck. And that first week, everything was Imbue Rogue. I literally played against it every other game for a couple of days straight, and then it slowly started to kind of wane a little bit until it was just a part of the normal metagame, and it was a good mix of decks again. But same thing will happen here. I'm sure there will be people playing Dragon Warrior like this, but we don't know if this is for sure going to be a tier 1 deck like it was in the previous metagame until we have some time to digest the games and digest the data. So definitely don't get too hasty with what you craft, but it's always a great idea to get the pre-release bundles and stuff like that. Gets you a bunch of the new cards so you can just start playing with them. I always love at the beginning of a new set to just play a bunch of the new cards and just cram them in a deck and just play some games just so that you have experience with them. Because there's always going to be something that surprises you that you're like, oh, I didn't expect it to be that good. And there's always going to be other things that looked good on paper but don't quite perform as well in an actual game state. So that's all I got for you guys. I appreciate you watching. Definitely check out the rest of the videos on YouTube. Bunch of standard games, some other tips for legend runs, stuff like that. So like I always say, smash the like button. I hate when people say that, so I always make fun of it. But very excited for Dragon Warrior. But peace and love, guys. I'll catch you next time.